and this is obviously related to the extraordinary scenes yesterday where the Prime Minister of Slovakia, Robert Fico, amazingly appears to have survived an assassination attempt when he was shot at close range 4 times as he was on a walkabout, a meet and greet. It comes just 3 weeks ahead of European elections across Europe. Big concerns about safety of our politicians and indeed what the motivation was for this attack. Well, let's talk to Mary Dziejewski, who's a foreign affairs columnist at The Independent and joins us now. Good morning to you, Mary.
Good morning.
Thanks so much indeed for joining us. Well, we've had some statements from the Slovak authorities about this yet, but we still don't know the exact motive. A 71-year-old suspect is in custody. What is the talk in Slovakia about what the likely motive would be?
Well, it really hasn't been cleared up, and it's still completely in the air, because there have been a few details released about the would-be assassin, including most improbable details. He's not the youthful profile that assassins often are. He's in his 70s. He doesn't seem to have any sort of particular background in political activity of the sort that might lead to assassination. He's been described as a published poet. In the past, he was apparently a pacifist, that he was anti-war. So it's very, very difficult to put these two things into line and really define what he was trying to do.
Yeah, and that's what's so fascinating. But it is incredible that at such close range, I think 2 bullets hit his the Prime Minister's hand rather than his abdomen. So that's obviously gave him a fighting chance, but that he appears to have survived this, although he's fighting for his life overnight. We have been told that he's still critically ill, but at least stable now in hospital. But he bundled it, as we saw those incredible video images, bundled into a car by a security team and made safe. Now, look, this isn't the first time that there's been an attempt on a Prime Minister's life in Europe. This has happened before. We kind of got used to the idea that American presidents face this sort of security threat. Of course, we've had the threats against our own political leaders here. 1984, Brighton Grant with Margaret Thatcher, and of course that mortar attack on Downing Street on John Major when he was in office. But how much should we read into this in terms of the safety of our political leaders? Because the Slovak authorities are saying, look, this is an attack not just on this man, this is an attack on European democracy. Do you see it that way?
I think you maybe see it more from the other side as being an incredible failure of security, given how close the would-be assassin was able to get to.
But politicians need to be able to, we need our politicians to be able to go meet members of the public, don't they, without assuming everyone's got a gun.
No, absolutely. And, when you see the degree of security that surrounds, say, American presidents for obvious reasons, the distance there is very, very off-putting. So obviously a balance has to be drawn there. But it's very, very difficult to stop not just somebody determined, but, the chances that come together to make this sort of thing possible. I mean, the closest parallel that I see, for instance, you could see Joe Cox in the UK just before the EU referendum. I might also see the mayor of Gdansk in 2019, who was shot at a public event and killed. But he was on the one hand, it was a chance, it was a deliberate assassination attempt, and it succeeded, and it was a move against what that particular politician, who was very liberal in the Polish context, what he was seen to stand for, and he was assassinated by somebody from exactly the opposite tendency.
Yeah, so you expect. And in terms of this leader, Robert Fico, who's in hospital, that in terms of his support for Viktor Orban in Hungary, but also speaking out in favour of Vladimir Putin, where we see the Ukrainian war on European borders, how significant do you think that is in terms of the investigation?
I think, again, it's so difficult to say without knowing what the actual motivation was. If you look at Robert Fico, then he's often described in very black and white terms as a populist, straight down the line populist. And as you say, he aligns himself with the Hungarian leader, who is seen as an outlier in the European Union, and that he's friendly towards Moscow. I think those are real oversimplifications.
Right.
I think he he could be described as more sympathetic towards Moscow than a lot of other...
He's not a Putin acolyte. That's interesting. Mary Dziedzewski, thank you so much for joining us, Foreign Affairs columnist at The Independent. Thank you for your time.